I want to talk about this. Labour seemingly paving the way for the introduction of the 4-day week. How often have we talked about this? Local Government Secretary Angela Rayner has scrapped Whitehall opposition to the introduction of a shorter working hours for the same pay by South Cambridgeshire Council. There was due to be some opposition to that. It comes as the London Mayor Sadiq Khan has reportedly offered tube drivers a 4-day working week for the same pay in response to their latest strike action. Let's speak with Marilyn Devonish, remote working consultant. Marilyn, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good as gold at this end. Do you know how I always know it's a Monday?
How?
When I go to park my car near the railway station, I can always get a space on a Monday or a Friday. And it took me a couple of months to work this out. And I thought, there's a reason for that. And that's because they are the days people are most likely, if they can work from home, they're the days they're most likely to do it.
Absolutely. Make a nice long weekend of it and give yourself a proper amount of time to unwind.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there thinking, I've got a victory here, I've got a parking space. But then I'm also thinking, oh, hang on, I'm going to work. The person whose space I'm in isn't going to work. I'm not sure who's up on the deal here. Although,
that's not to say they could not be working from home and making more efficient use of their time, not, running the car every single day. So there's that old age thing that just because somebody's not in the office, they're not working, and that's clearly not always true.
But often laid on the sofa watching loose women with a pot noodle in their hand. I mean, there is a bit of that, Marilyn.
They're having a break, and why not? Would you begrudge someone a break in the middle of the day? I'm sure you wouldn't.
Well, I've got a few mates where I live. Working from home is a bit of a kind of national sport. In fact, they were doing it down there in good old leafy Sevenoaks before it was even trendy, to be honest. I mean, a mate who I often have a little pint with, he was doing 4 days a week like 5 or 6 years ago. So this had, even pre-COVID, I'm sure you're more onto this than me, Marilyn, it was beginning to become a bit of a thing, right? Flexible hours.
Absolutely, and it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm a remote working implementation consultant. I've been doing that since 2003.
Wow.
Having people work remotely, flexibly, what we used to call smart working. So it's not a new idea. And I heard that you mentioned South Cambridgeshire District Council in the beginning. They ran a 15-month pilot. And when you look at the results of that pilot, the numbers and the statistics and what they noticed, absolutely stunning. And I know people often just go for the headline, working less for more money or the same pay, but there's a lot more to it and there's a bigger picture. And if you want me to run you through a few of the things that they noticed, I would be more than happy to do that.
That would be great, because I guess it does naturally... Look, listen, I'm paid to be a bit of a cynical old sort, but, that just goes with the territory. I used to do a 4-day working week, actually. In radio, I did a 10 p.m. show for a good few years, and it was Monday to Thursday. And come Thursday night, I didn't come back till Monday night. Every weekend was like a bank holiday, Marilyn. And I was a single bloke at the time. It was like life didn't get any better. I had all this time off every weekend. It was brilliant. So I'm familiar with the fact that it can work in some areas. And I guess, maybe there's a bit of envy on behalf of those that don't do, because I currently don't do a 4-day working week. But your point and others' point, I guess, is that there are good reasons to do it and good reasons why it works better.
Absolutely. And some of the things that the South Cambridge have found really fascinating, it makes perfect sense. One of the things that they talked about was in terms of culture, handover of skills, because if you've got people off with stress, and stress is a big one, 29 billion with a B, 29 billion pounds a year is lost through stress-related illness in the UK alone. That's a big number. Yeah. So if you have people off with stress, if you have people who are burnt out, overworked, falling behind, feeling all that sort of angst, and they're bringing in agency staff don't have the continuity. Yep. So they found that they saved £370,000 a year in that year by doing the 4-day week. So I was thinking, okay, how do you do that? Paying the people the same, they may be working less hours. So I started to look behind it. And one of the things they found, less agency staff. So that's less money because agency staff are more expensive. You weren't spending a lot of time and money training staff because they were there. Staff were less stressed. Their mental health improved. Their productivity went up, and they had more continuity of service because people were not leaving because they were stressed and burnt out. And actually it was bringing people to the area because it was a more attractive proposition. So when you say win-win, which is a bit of a cliche term, it really was a win for the organisation organisation, a win for staff.
Yeah, and I get it. I do, you know, it's not, look, the 5-day work, it's not a law of physics. It's not something that Isaac Newton discovered, you know, back in the day where, you know, you get that question in the pub, who discovered the 5-day week? It's not that. So we've just got, it's just essentially how we've done it. I mean, the weekend once upon a time didn't exist, as I believe. So, you know, these things do change all the time. Why do you think some people are very, very uncomfortable with others doing a 4-day week?
Well, I think you might have touched on it slightly, and there's going to be lots of facets, of course, but there can be that thing, well, hold on a minute, I'm working 5 or 6 or 7 days a week, and what if those people over there, as they used to say, swinging the lead? So I think there's a little bit of that around it as well. And also, somebody's in a role and a job that will not afford them the opportunity to do that. Just like remote working, you can't have your train driver remote working and doing it from the, well, maybe you can in sci-fi world, but in today's technology, you need to be on site. So sometimes there are those sorts of things. Now, I guess the harsh reality of it is, if somebody was saying, well, hold on a minute, I want to work a 4-day week, I think that you might have to say, well, you may then have to think about changing your role, changing your job, going to an organisation that offers you that. But I think there's an element of that. And of course, if you just look at it at face value, it does seem as though people are working less and being paid the same or more. But when you look beneath those metrics, there's often, and there was a 4-day week experiment that's been going on. There were 61 companies, I think it was 46 or 48 of those companies opted to carry on, and 18 of those made it a policy in terms of the 4-day week. So there has been work around it, and as you quite rightly said, it's not brand new. It's just that now we're starting to talk about it more, and it's being more implemented. I
wonder, Marilyn, whether it's at the public sector bit that maybe bothers us a bit. You know, when we've all tried to phone, whether it's the DVLA or the Passport Office, or you want to sort your council tax out, so local government, national, you try to phone those things, and apart from the fact you get through to a machine and then you press 1 for this and 6 for that, and you think, does anybody even work in this place? And it's quite hard. And then when you do get through, you know, you've given somebody all your information and you get cut off and you've got to start again. You know, we've all been in those things. I guess it's that area. Maybe it's in the civil service that we hold a bit of a grudge, because we tend to think that they're not efficient anyway.
Let me share this with you. In terms back to Cambridgeshire, they found that time taken to process changes with housing benefits, council tax, time taken to process those applications fell when they were doing the 4-day week. They also found that there were 15% more major planning applications were completed on time, and regular planning applications were decided a week and a half earlier during this 4-day week. So if you really look at the metrics, they tell a different story.
But I don't want to think I'm ringing somebody at the DVLA who's in their dressing gown and slippers. Is that, am I being too sensitive over this?
Look,
I don't want the image in my head. You know those 1950s offices where everybody had their own booth, as it were? Most in America, but over here they did it as well. I like to think they're there in, you know, a shirt and a tie, and, you know, ready to diligently carry out whatever task they have, not sitting at home with the Frosties.
Do you know what? I'm wearing a dress today, so I actually could stand up and you'll see the full dress.
There it is. Marilyn is fully dressed for work.
However, there are times where I'm wearing a shirt up here and a jacket, and I've got my favourite fluffy house, I call them the house PJs, and my fluffy slippers on. It doesn't mean that I'm working any less efficiently. It just means I'm comfy because I don't have to be customer facing. They just need to see me from here, but what I'm wearing on my legs and my feet doesn't affect my productivity. In fact, it helps it.
Listen, Marilyn, it's been fabulous having you on. Thank you. We will speak again.